I used to think I was the luckiest man alive. For years, I believed I had found the one. My wife wasn't just beautiful, she was everything I thought a partner should be. Kind, supportive, smart. She had this way of making me feel like I mattered, like I was the center of her world. Whenever friends asked me about marriage, I tell them, if you find someone like her, don't ever let go. Because to me, she was perfect. We built a life together that, at least on the surface, looked solid. We laughed over silly shows late at night, we planned trips we never got to take, we had little inside jokes that made even the dullest days brighter. And I trusted her, fully. I never questioned where she went, who she spoke to, or what her past looked like. Honestly, it never even crossed my mind. Because when you love someone, you don't expect them to lie about the very foundation of who they are. If you asked me back then, I would have said she was the best decision I had ever made. The person I wanted to grow old with. The one I thought I knew better than anyone else. But I was wrong. So wrong. What I didn't know, what I couldn't even imagine, was that the woman I married wasn't the person she claimed to be at all. And the truth was darker than anything I had ever expected. At first, everything felt normal. Or maybe I just wanted it to feel that way. But looking back now, the signs were always there. She hated talking about her past. Anytime I'd ask her about childhood memories, her hometown, or even simple questions like, what was high school like for you, she would dodge them. She'd laugh it off, change the subject, or suddenly ask me something about my own life. I thought it was just her way of being private. Everyone has things they'd rather forget, right? Then there were the phone calls. Late at night, when she thought I was asleep, I'd hear her whispering in the kitchen. Sometimes her voice was soft, almost like she didn't want to wake me. Other times, she sounded anxious. When I asked her about it the next morning, she always had an excuse. It was a wrong number, a friend in trouble, or just work stuff. And I believed her, because why wouldn't I? One evening, I stumbled across something that made my stomach twist. She had left her purse on the couch, and when I moved it to sit down, a few papers spilled out. Among them was an old ID card. Same face, same smile, but a different name. For a second I thought it must have been fake, maybe something from college or work requirement. When I asked her, she didn't even flinch. She laughed and said it was a silly old mistake, and snatched it from my hands. I told myself not to push it. We all have strange things in our past. Maybe it wasn't important, but the unease wouldn't go away. And then there were the stories that didn't add up. She once told me she had studied abroad for 2 years, but later she claimed she'd never even left the country. She said her parents had passed away when she was young, but I overheard her on the phone once, saying, "I'll visit soon." The little cracks kept showing. Tiny inconsistencies, half-truths, excuses that didn't make sense. And even though my gut was screaming at me, I silenced it. Because admitting that something was wrong would mean questioning everything I thought I knew about her. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. I remember the first time I saw her phone light up with a name I didn't recognize. It wasn't a saved contact, just a number. She glanced at me, almost startled, and immediately walked into the other room to answer it. I told myself it was nothing. That I was overthinking, but something inside me shifted that night. A few days later, she left her laptop open. Normally, I'd never even think of snooping. That's how much I trusted her. But that day, I don't know what came over me. Maybe curiosity, maybe fear. Her messages were short, fragmented. But one name kept showing up, Daniel. I didn't know any Daniel in her life. And the way she wrote to him, vague, careful, almost coded, sent a chill down my spine. I tried to shake it off. Maybe he was just an old friend. Maybe I was twisting it into something it wasn't. But the doubt had already taken root. Then, one weekend, while cleaning out the closet, I found a small box tucked away behind some clothes. Inside were old photographs. At first, they looked innocent, pictures of her at family gatherings, smiling, younger. But then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. She wasn't alone in those photos. There were kids, a man with his arm around her, a man I had never seen before, and in every single picture, she looked happy. Genuinely happy. My hands were shaking as I put the photos back. My heart was pounding so loud I swore she could hear it from the other room. That night, I lay awake next to her, staring at the ceiling, wondering, who was this woman? Who had I really married? I wanted to confront her right then and there, but every time I looked at her sleeping face, I froze. Because even in my doubt, I still loved her. And that was the most terrifying part of all. I couldn't take it anymore. The sleepless nights, the racing thoughts, the lies I kept telling myself just to make it through the day. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started digging. At first, it was small, searching her name online, trying to connect the dots. But the more I looked, the less sense things made. Some of the details she'd told me didn't match with any public record. It was like she barely existed before the day we met. That's when I decided to go further. I pulled out the old ID I had found months earlier, the one with a different name. I couldn't get it out of my head. With trembling hands, I ran the information through an official database. And that's when my entire world cracked open. The results came back. Same face, same woman, but not the name I knew. Not the birthday she had given me. Not the life she had told me about. According to the records, she was married. In another city. To another man. My breath caught in my throat. My chest tightened as if the air itself had been ripped away. I read the lines over and over, hoping I had made a mistake. But there it was, clear as day. The woman I shared my bed with every night. The woman I promised my future to. The woman I believed was my soulmate, had already promised herself to someone else. I felt sick, betrayed, used. Every memory, every laugh, every whispered, "I love you," suddenly felt poisoned. I had built my entire life around her, but the truth was, I didn't even know who she really was. And for the first time, I realized, the person I loved, the person I thought I knew better than anyone, might never have existed at all. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The silence, the pretending, it was eating me alive. So one night, after dinner, I looked her straight in the eye and said the words I'd been afraid to speak. "Who are you really?" She froze. Her fork slipped from her hand and clattered against the plate. For a moment, she looked like a stranger sitting across from me. At first, she laughed. A nervous, shaky laugh. "What are you talking about?" she said, brushing it off. "You're being ridiculous." But I didn't back down. I told her about the ID card. About the photographs. About the records I found. And about Daniel. Her face drained of color. The denial in her eyes melted into something else, panic. She tried to spin it, saying I didn't understand, that I was overreacting, that her past was complicated. But I pressed harder. For once, I wasn't going to let her dodge the questions. Finally, after what felt like hours, the mask cracked. Her voice trembled when she whispered, "I just wanted to start over." The truth came spilling out in pieces. The different name, the lies about her age, and then the part that nearly destroyed me. She already had a family. A husband, children, a life she had abandoned without telling me. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands shook, but I forced myself to keep listening. She begged me to understand. She said her past was a nightmare, that she needed a way out, that with me she felt safe, like she could finally be happy again. But all I could hear was the same phrase repeating in my head: she lied. About everything. The woman I thought I knew had built our marriage on secrets and deception. And the worst part? She wasn't even sorry for the lies, only for being caught. Her words kept echoing in my head, but they didn't feel real. Another family, another life. I stared at her, my chest tight, my vision blurry, like the walls themselves were closing in. Years. Years of laughter, of promises, of plans for the future, and all of it was built on lies. My voice broke when I finally spoke. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me? To us?" She reached for my hand, tears streaming down her face, but I pulled away. Her touch, the same touch that once made me feel safe, now burned like fire. I wanted to scream, to throw every word of betrayal back at her. But the anger was tangled with something worse: love. I still loved her, and that was the cruelest part. I felt split in two. One part of me wanted to walk away, to never see her face again. The other part, the weaker, desperate part, still craved the woman I thought she was. But she wasn't that woman. She never was. I realized then that I had a choice. Stay with someone who had destroyed the very foundation of our marriage, or walk away and lose the person I once believed was my everything. And in that moment, with her sobbing across from me, begging for another chance, I felt nothing but rage and heartbreak. Because no matter how much I loved her, I could never look at her the same way again. I wish I could tell you I found the strength to forgive her. That love was enough to fix the damage. But the truth is, once trust is gone, there's nothing left to build on. She begged me to stay. She swore this time she would be honest, that we could start fresh. But how do you start fresh when the very beginning was a lie? Every time I looked at her, I didn't see my wife anymore. I saw the stranger who had stolen years of my life, the woman who stood beside me in a white dress while hiding another family in the shadows. And no matter how much I wanted to hold on to the dream, I couldn't. Because it wasn't real, so I walked away, broken, humiliated, but free. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's that love without trust is just an illusion. And illusions always shatter. But here's what I still can't answer, even now. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Would you forgive for the sake of love? Or would you leave for the sake of truth?